Travel is a thing that if you don't think about it, you probably won't ever do it. And coming to a place like this, you're just so affected by everybody that you bump into that has this bug to travel.
So from Guatemala to China to Hawaii, I can't wait to try it all.
Anything and everything in travel, this is the place to be every February.
It was so awesome to see all these places that you never thought you would visit and learn the best way to fly there from LAX and get some good deals at the same time.
I've been able to find way more than I expected. There's just amazing companies here showing us some great things, and I can't wait to travel with all the great vendors I found.
Welcome to the Travel and Adventure Show Travel Update. Many of us are not traveling. We're hoping to get back to traveling soon. Today we'll give you a guide on hotel programs. I'm Stefan Krasowski and joined by my co-host Senitra Horbook.
Thanks, Stefan. It's good to be here.
So there's been a huge amount of change, of course, disruption to travel plans, but we're starting to think about later this year, maybe next year, as well as some of us are still sorting through disrupted travel plans. So the situation's changing a lot, but talk generally about hotel cancellation policies during this time.
Sure. Yeah. With the hotel, it's a lot of the major programs and chains are doing free cancellations up until June 30th, but that's definitely a kind of a moving target that keeps changing as this pandemic or this travel pause kind of goes on. The date may get extended, but basically you just want to be aware of your hotel chain's policies. And if you're booking future travel, try to look for flexible cancellations, I would say. What about you, Stefan?
Yeah, I was in a position where I was lucky to not have too many hotel stays to cancel. I know a lot of travelers that had prepaid stays found trouble getting their money back in cases. So I feel like any bookings I'm going to make, even if they might be a little more expensive, I'm not going to do anything prepaid for the time being. I feel more comfortable with a flexible cancellation policy that doesn't already have my money.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And for me, I've had some trips that I've had to cancel, but luckily I used points for my hotel stays. So I was just able to go online and cancel them and get the points right back. And then I had another stay where I think I had paid a deposit. This one wasn't on points, and the hotel was going to be closed, so they weren't accepting any bookings at all. And they actually just automatically refunded me. I didn't even take any effort on my part. So I would just say be aware, keep checking your hotel, your stay dates, see if the hotel is going to be open. If you already know that you're going to have to cancel your trip, then look at their policy on cancellation.
Yeah, and I think talking about, you mentioned booking point stays, and people think about free nights if they have travel that they've earned points or a credit card that's earned points. They think about the free travel, but they may not appreciate the added flexibility, because many of the point stays you could book, even in normal travel times, are much more flexible to cancel or change. So talk about the typical differences between cash rates and points rates in terms of flexibility.
Yeah, points rates are typically cancelable. I mean, it depends. Sometimes different hotels, certain specific hotels might have different policies, but in general, I would say you have up until like 6 p.m. of the night you're staying to cancel it and get all of your points back. If for some reason you are canceling it like super last minute, I would even say to call the chain and appeal to them and even see if there's anything they can do to refund your points, because you just never know if you don't ask. So.
And it seems like they're more flexible sometimes with points. I don't know why than cash, but you did mention call the chain, not the hotel. Why is that?
Exactly. The hotel may not have, like the person at the front desk may not have the power or the ability to refund your points. They're just going to tell you what the policy says. But if you call the loyalty program, they're generally going to have, excuse me, a little bit more flexibility and options to help you out, I would think.
Fantastic. And let's start talking about hotel status. And hotel status doesn't require all that much travel in many cases. There's a number of credit cards even that give you all the way up to the top status. So a number of travelers listening may have status and they're wondering about what does it mean if they're not traveling the rest of the year? What does it mean for next year?
Well, a lot of the major loyalty programs have already announced that they've extended status until or through next year. So you won't have to requalify this year, which I think is a great benefit. What would you say?
Yeah, it's called a free pass, right? It's it may not be traveling, they're extending, they're not typically announcing changes or promotions yet. I don't think they're ready to announce get back to travel. We've not seen hotel rates that cheap right now because the assumption is for short-term travel, people that need to stay in a hotel need to stay in a hotel now. So we're not seeing big discounted rates. There might be a lot of domestic travel this year. There might be very little depending how the situation plays out. So I think in terms of promotions, all the hotel companies are wait and see. But the status, it's nice to see these extensions. It's nice to be recognized as a customer and not feel like I'm going to lose something that I had based on my travels last year for something I can't control. So I think each hotel has taken its time in some cases to get to more or less the same policy across. You've got Hilton, Hyatt, Marriott, IHG, Radisson, Best Western. You've got all these programs, and more or less, as you said, it's good until next year. Now, for those that have never had hotel status, we'll talk in a minute about some of the credit cards that can get you hotel status. But what are some of the benefits you can get? Why would you want to have hotel status?
Well, one of the best benefits, in my opinion, is just getting an upgraded room. Like, let's say you booked just the basic room, whether it's on cash or points, you just book the entry-level room. Well, you get there, you check in, and the hotel sees that you're a platinum member with their loyalty program, and one of the ways to thank you for your loyalty is by giving you a nicer room. Now, maybe that's just a room with a better view, a higher floor. Sometimes it's a suite, so you just never know as far as the upgrades. And in addition to that, some of the perks of being having status with the program include like free breakfast. Sometimes they give you free parking. They might give you like a spa credit or a dining credit to use in a restaurant, or drink coupons to use at the bar. So there's different perks for different chains, but overall I'd say a lot of them sort of overlap though.
And one a particular favorite credit card of mine, the American Express Hilton Honors Surpass, this has a $95 annual fee per year. So it's similar to, say, the airline credit cards, an annual fee, which those would give you, say, a free check bag. The Hilton Surpass, you don't have to have even one stay. You get their gold status, and their gold status includes breakfast for, is it 2 adults and up to 2 children?
I believe so.
And thinking about the math on that, and I know, Senitra, you're better at math than I am, that in running the hotel program benefits, but say a family of 4, the typical, say, just U.S. hotel breakfast is going to run $15, $20 at a lot of these, and it can just take 1 or 2 nights stay in the entire year to make that benefit worthwhile.
Exactly. Yeah. And I feel like the money that you're not spending on breakfast, you can take that money and apply it to somewhere else in your trip. And, maybe you have a fancy dinner later, or you do some activity that you didn't think you could afford, but now you can because you're getting free breakfast at your hotel.
And I know the counter argument is often, well, I could just go out to a coffee shop and get a breakfast for $3 or $4. You and I are both solo travelers, but we see enough families traveling that I think having free breakfast is a very de-stressing way to start your travel day, especially with family.
Yeah, very true, very true.
Talk about it, and I know you do a lot with Hilton, so we'll continue on that example. Talk about some of the great points hotels experiences you've had in Hilton or some of the other programs.
Well, one thing I like about Hilton, going back to the credit cards, with the Surpass card, you spend $15,000 a year, they give you a free weekend night, which actually this year, due to the pandemic, they have decided to make that weekend night into an anytime night, which is also a nice benefit that they've added. And so I like to use those free nights at really top tier hotels. So last year I stayed at a Conrad, and on my radar for this year or next year would be like a Waldorf Astoria, just one of their top tier hotels in any location around the world. There's a few blackout hotel, well, I say blackout, but I mean hotels where your free night is not valid, but it's a small list, I would say, and it's available. That list is available online. But I would say I really like those types of that benefit for the free night. And the Aspire card also gives you a free night, I believe, just for having the card. You don't even have to spend. If you do spend $60,000, they give you a second free night, so you can get up to 2 that way.
And so this is another Hilton card from American Express, and the annual fee for the Aspire is it $450?
Yeah, that sounds correct. Yes.
So it's a much higher annual fee. You get a higher status. You get a lot of benefits that are a bit complicated: airline credits, resort credit that you mentioned. So it's a bit more of a travel investment. But for those that are really interested in the Hilton program, that card's got a lot of fans. If you're not interested in such a large annual fee, the Surpass we talked about, $95 a year. As you said, at $15,000 a year spending can seem like a lot, but this is spending anywhere the card is, right? This is not just at Hilton
Correct.
properties.
Yes, this is, you put all of your charges or your expenses on that card, and it's probably not too difficult to rack up 15,000.
Yeah, and this is just over $1,000 a month that you're talking about in everyday expenses by putting it on that card. And talking about the current travel situation, because cards like this are not being used by travelers because travelers aren't traveling. Talk about some of the promotions that especially American Express as well as Chase have offered to encourage using those cards for the spend people are doing, like grocery stores and supermarkets.
Yes, well, the Hilton cards, the Surpass and the Aspire, are both offering 12x or 12 times the points on grocery spending. And typically for the Surpass card, they give you 6x, and I think the Aspire is typically 3x. So I'm not
That's
certain.
Right. And okay. This is good through July 31st.
Yes, that's through July 31st. And then Marriott is also offering a bonus on grocery spending, and that's valid on if you have a Chase Marriott card or American Express Marriott card. They're offering, I believe, 5 points per dollar on grocery spending, and that's through June 30th. And I think it's might be a maximum of $5,000 spending, where you can get that bonus on your groceries. And Chase is also, in addition to the Marriott cards, any Chase card, if you have a Chase Sapphire Preferred or one of the other premium tier cards, they're offering 5 points per dollar on your grocery spending through June 30th. So you can do $1,500 grocery spending per month with that promotion. And then on some of the other Chase cards, like their hotel cards, the Hyatt or IHG, and the some of the airline cards, like the British Airways, I believe, and there's a long list of their cards, but they're offering 3 points per dollar on your grocery spending. So it's definitely a good time to be home buying groceries right now and racking up some travel points.
Yeah, and it's confusing. We've mentioned a lot of names, a lot of different type of points. And one of the key areas is not all points are created equal. So 12 Hilton points is not necessarily the same value as 12 American Airlines points or 12 Marriott, because what the points are worth in the program, say for free nights, can be a totally different price. So let's talk about Chase a little bit. Uh, American Express has Hilton and Marriott partnerships. Chase has even more. They have IHG, which is brands like Holiday Inn and Crown Plaza. They have Hyatt and they have Marriott, and some of their cards can transfer points to all of them, as well as having hotel cards. So talk about the different value of a Hyatt point, an IHG point, and a Marriott point.
Well, that's kind of a loaded question because it's hard to really explain it succinctly. But I would say if you have one of the premium Chase cards where you can transfer your points to those different hotel programs, that's the best way to start rather than getting the individual card of that program. Unless you know, let's say you're a Hyatt loyalist and that you travel all the time and Hyatt is the only place you stay, well, then maybe you do want a Hyatt card. But if you're not loyal to any one particular chain, I would say to get the Chase Sapphire Reserve, the Chase Sapphire Preferred, one of the Inc. business cards, and that way you can transfer your points to the hotel program that works best for you for the trip that you're going on. That's kind of how I base where to transfer my points, even though they might be worth different values. Let's say a Marriott might have one of their lower tier hotels, like a Fairfield Inn or something like that, or a Courtyard, that might be 35, 45,000 points. But on the other hand, a Park Hyatt, which is like the highest tier in that program, that would also be 35 or 40,000 points, probably not 40, 35,000 or something like that points. So it depends. You have to do the math and see, is this a good redemption for my points, or should I save this for something better? And that's kind of how I do when I'm trying to book travel.
And you're talking there about the Chase Ultimate Rewards program that, as we said, has these hotel partners. They have airline partners, and I think we've got a lot of people that are concerned that say an airline may go out of business or a hotel may go out of business, and they're worried that potentially that could impact their points. If bankruptcy typically has not in the US resulted in points programs going away for the major airlines, at least. But there's that possibility if say an airline went into liquidation and totally ceased operations, they could potentially, the points could potentially become valueless. So a program like the Chase Ultimate Rewards, like Amex membership rewards, like Citi Thank You rewards, these are all ones where the points are sitting in the bank, right? So then they're not needing, you don't need to transfer them to the airline or hotel you're going to use it until you actually want to use it. So if you're earning these points, I think you mentioned what the Sapphire cards for personal, the Inc. for business. If you're sitting on these points in the bank and you have confidence in the bank, then you don't need to worry about a specific airline or hotel. You can just wait to use them until the time is right.
Yeah, that's exactly my strategy, is just to wait until I know what I want to do with those points before I transfer them over to an airline or hotel program. I always have a redemption in mind before I do that.
So let's talk about things are magically good again. What are some of the dream hotels or interesting hotels that you've been planning on that you hope to visit in the next year or two?
The dream hotels. Wow, that's interesting. To think about that for a second. Well, just not necessarily the next year or two, but in general, I think the really aspirational kind of hotels are in the tropical locations, like the Bora Bora or the Maldives or the Seychelles. All like Hilton and Hyatt, I know, has really very nice hotels in those locations that I've seen other travelers use their points and have wonderful stays. And so I think that would be something sort of maybe down the road that that I aspire to, but in the near future or next year, probably just looking at the major cities in Europe. Not sure, maybe Prague or Berlin or maybe Portugal.
That's right. I
So
remember
I'm
you
just,
love Christmas markets, so I know
I do love
you must be
Christmas
hoping.
markets.
Which is your favorite Christmas market?
Out of the ones I've seen so far, I would say my favorite has been Vienna, Austria. They just had a lot of different markets all over the city and in different neighborhoods. So it wasn't just one big market in the center of town. You could go and you could do a different market, visit a different market every day if you wanted to on your whole trip. So there's just so much to see and so much food to try, and you can have some warm drinks, and it's just a really nice experience, especially with the festive Christmas music. There's usually entertainers out performing, so it's a great experience.
Well,
Have you been to any Christmas markets?
I've been briefly, but not to savor them as much. I often go to Europe in the winter to see a lot of the museums because I feel like Americans pick the worst time to go to Europe for museums, right in the middle of the summer when it's hot and there's no air conditioning. If you're able to travel in other seasons, and school trips can of course interfere, but Thanksgiving is a great time in Europe. It may be a little cold in some places, but often not so harsh. Christmas time as well. Maybe more businesses or sites could be closed around Christmas, though the crowds are down, and I really enjoy the cultural attractions in Europe. And I certainly need to get to more Christmas markets, and I hope that I will again soon.
Yeah, same here.
Thank you for joining us, Senitra, for all your expertise, and thank you all for joining us tonight on the Travel and Adventure Show.
Thank you very much.